Hello again. In this video, we are going to continue our experiments with glitch tutorials. And for this one, we're going to be using Audacity, which is a free audio editing software application that is suitable for the Mac and PC. And we are going to use this process to bend the data on an image file. I'm going to be using one of the image files that I provided, though again, you're free to use your own images for this process, and hopefully you can find a meaningful connection between the image file itself and the process. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this, and you can follow along. Again, remember that I'm using a Mac, so my interfaces and some of the options might be a little bit different between your computer and your process and mine. So again, in the last video, I showed you how I had a folder for the glitch tutorials on my desktop. And in addition, we can see inside of that folder here. So here is the folder that's on my desktop. And inside of it, I created subfolders for Audacity, Snorpy, and also the text, which this is the one that we most recently worked on together. So in the Audacity folder, I have already moved a copy of that original tutorial file in here. It's called Datagraph Start. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate that right now and change the file name to reflect this project in this tutorial. So I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to go in and duplicate that file. And when it shows back up, I'm going to change the name, and it's going to be your name. So mine says Natalie, audacity1.bmp, which is kind of an uncommon file type for us anymore. So it's a bitmap file type, and it works well for opening up into Audacity. So I'm going to keep it like that. If you had a file that you brought in that was a JPEG or a TIFF or a GIF or something like that, you can rename that file to have the file extension of .bmp and then load that file into Audacity. That's what I did with this one. This started off as a JPEG, and I actually just renamed the file and changed the file extension here. So now that I have my, my file, I'm going to actually go ahead and open up Audacity, which I already downloaded from the browser, from the web, and now have installed on my computer. So I'm going to go ahead and find Audacity and open that up. And here's the Audacity interface. It's a little bit clunky, it looks a little old school, but it's going to do the trick for us. So once we get into Audacity, our next job is to open up the image file into the application. And this is going to look a little bit different on your screen than it does on mine because I've already done this before, and so some of the menu options are already set in the way that we need them to be set because it remembers my processes from the past. So either way, you have instructions on kind of what options you need to be selecting. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the File menu, and I'm going to import raw data. And with the raw data, I'm going to go ahead and get to my desktop, find my glitch tutorials. I'm going to go into the folder that I made for Audacity, and I'm going to select the image file that I wish to bring in and choose Open. In the next menu in here, I'm going to be asked to change a couple of settings in here. So what we're going to be doing with this one is we're setting the encoding to be ULAW. You might have also heard people in other video tutorials talk about working with ULAW or ALAW. I'm going to be setting this to ULAW here, and I need to remember that because later when I export this file out, I need to make sure that I am picking the same encoding model. So if I pick ULAW here, I want to pick ULAW later. If I picked ALAW here, I want to pick ALAW later. So I'm just going to note that to myself. And that might be something that you want to change or mess around with or try or test to see what happens if you start with ULAW and then export out as ALAW or vice versa. So, or if you use the same image and you do one glitch where you use ULAW and ULAW, And then on the next one, you try A law and see if you can get, if there's really much of a difference. So I'm starting with U law. The other thing is going to be the byte order, which I'm going to be setting to big endian. And then everything else that's in here is going to stay the same. So I'm going to go ahead and say import. Now when I get into the actual image file, this here is our image data being represented as audio waveforms. So these probably look familiar to some of you who may have done some audio editing in the past, or you've just seen audio waveforms before. But essentially, as those waveforms move away from the central line, the volume and intensity is increasing. So we can actually listen to the way that our image sounds here. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn down the volume a little bit because it's a little disconcerting. And I'll go ahead and play just a teeny bit of our image. You can see right here that our audio is way off the meter chart. That's why we're seeing it all the way up here into the red. But this is actually what our image sounds like. Isn't that fascinating, right? A couple of things that you can do in here so that we can see all of the audio waveform in this one window is I'm going to use these little tools right here, and I'm going to zoom out until I can see the full audio waveform in a single window. And if I wanted to, I could even expand this out a little bit so I can kind of see my image here. Okay, so I'm in, I don't want to be using my tools right now. I want to actually be able to select some content in here, and we're going to apply an audio effect to it. So in my instructions, I say go ahead and start somewhere around 6 seconds in and go up to 12 seconds. So you can see right here, this is the time, our time marker. So that's 6 seconds in. This is 12 seconds in. So overall, our image is a scant 18-second audio file. So I've made a selection in here just by clicking and dragging from the, roughly the 6 to the 12, and I can kind of increase that as well. Let me go ahead and try that one more time. So 6 to 12, and I have a selection now of my media. I'm going to go up to the effect menu up at the top. I'm going to go down to echo. I'm not going to change anything about my echo effect right now. I'm just going to leave it the same way that it is, although in subsequent tests, I'm probably going to want to change this a little bit. So, but for right now, mine is set at a delay of 1 and a decay factor of a half. And then I'm going to go ahead and say, okay. Now, some very subtle changes have happened in here. It's hard for us to really tell visually what's happened. So let's save this file out or export the file out and go take a look at what has happened to it. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the File menu. We're going to go down to Export. We are going to be exporting out this audio. And what we need to do right now is navigate to the correct location. So I'm going to go on my desktop, to my folder, into my Audacity folder in here, and I'm going to save this file out, but I need to make a couple of changes. So first off, if I wanted to rename the file to something other than Audacity 1, I could change that here. I definitely need to make sure that I add that bitmap file extension to the end of it, so that I can see it as an image again. And then down at the bottom, we want this to say other uncompressed files. And then down at the bottom below that, we want this to say raw. And we want this to say ULAW. This is where we match whatever the encoding was at the beginning. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that since I played around with those settings, I added a separate AIFF file extension. So I'm just double checking up here again that it's just the file name .bmp. Going right into the proper folder, it's going to replace the one that I began with. So I'm going to go ahead and say save. And then we're going to go ahead and say yes. Yes, I'm okay with the fact that I changed the file extension from .raw to .bmp. Then when I get in here, it's telling me, do you want to replace the one that you began with? And yes, I do. And then I don't need to save anything about the metadata for this file. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK again. And then let's go take a look at what that image file looks like now. So here I am in my folder on the desktop. I see my Natalie Audacity 1.bmp. I'm going to open that up and here is my glitched file. So this was the starting image. This is how it began. This is what happened after applying that echo effect. And so we have now corrupted, well, we haven't corrupted, but I guess we've bent the data a little bit using an audio editor. So this is where you would then start back over from scratch and try either a different audio effect or try cutting audio waveforms out of Audacity, replacing them, duplicating them, or maybe you're just going to change the settings on the echo effect and try again and see if you can get some other interesting effects from this. Okay, I hope that helps you get started with glitching your image media using Audacity.